What's up, guys? It's your favorite QB coach, and give me 6 months of your time, and I'll give you the best golf swing of your life. So welcome back to the channel. In this particular video, we have another client before and after video for you today. This will be another client who was struggling with steepening of the club shaft in transition, and this client really struggled with actually getting the opposite motion. So if you're out there, you've already tried the opposite motion, you're going through the how much and when, and you're not quite getting the results, this will be the perfect video for you because we had a little bit of a secret tip in here that might actually get you over the edge and get you flattening the club shaft when you want to. So let's go ahead and jump in. But before we get into the video, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Kiwi Golf Japan. If you're too busy or you just can't make it out to our locations for lessons, Kiwi Golf Japan is the membership site for you. With over 220 plus videos of golf instruction, we have everything on the site you could possibly want. So go ahead and check out that link down below, and now let's jump into the video. So I know a lot of you guys out there have been trying the how much a win of recent and haven't been able to get the results that you guys want. Now, oftentimes this can be summed up by probably just not focusing on the how much and win correctly. Maybe you're trying to fix too many things at once. It could just be in the matter of how you're doing it, so your process is wrong. But other times, it's really kind of the mental side of what you're focusing on subconsciously, and it's something that you don't even know you're doing, and it's the main reason why you probably aren't going to be able to get the results, because really the goal of the mind hasn't been really set correctly. So we're going to get into that little secret tip a little bit later on in this video at the very end, but let's go start off with the before swing first, then the after swing. We're going to highlight like a typical before and after, exactly what we changed so you can kind of see what it looks like. We'll talk about why we changed as well, and then at the very end of the video, again, make sure to stay tuned. We got all the secrets coming your guys' way. So let's go take a look at the top of swing and transition first. So as we get up to the top of the swing, let's go take a look at the before swing. So as we can see, the club shaft is situated parallel to the forearm. So technically he's in the correct spot. However, I would say that the club shaft positioning in terms of the angle right here is going to be a little bit on the steeper side. And this is something that can get a little complex, but I think if you guys kind of understand it in the way that I'm about to say it, it might make it easier for you guys to understand. So the more and more vertical your arm is, so I'm going to draw a white line right here. The more vertical your arm is, obviously the angle that you create with the club shaft will also be more vertical, right? Or closer to that 0 number. But the flatter your arm is, and if your club shaft is still parallel to the forearm, the more flatter your club shaft angle will be. So not only are you trying to get the club shaft in line with the forearm at the top of the swing, you also want to get the arm height or direction of the arm in the correct spot as well. Because if you can do that, you're probably going to get the club shaft in a nice little flat area, and it's going to be a little bit easier in that transition area to get into the correct position 5. Because even if you do steepen a little bit, because that club shaft is just a little bit flatter, you're probably still going to be good at P5 and then P5.5 and then P6. So now as we take a look at the after swing, we're still seeing that the club shaft is going to be parallel to the forearm. However, if we take a look at the angle that the club shaft is creating now, we're going to see that it's in a much flatter position than before, right around 57 degrees, right? I think the before was right around 36 degrees. So again, the main reason because of this is going to be because the lead arm is much flatter than the before swing. The before swing is a little bit more vertical, and this was going to allow the player, again, to get that club shaft just a little bit flatter at the top, which was really going to help us in transition. Now, even if you get the correct top of swing position, you can still mess it up by what type of torques you guys apply in transition. So let's go take a look at the before swing first. Let's take them down a few positions here to this position right here. And we can see that the club shaft quite clearly has steepened in that section. Now, the amount that it's steepened, let's go ahead and measure that really quick and see how much. So it looks right around 10 degrees, which is quite a bit, but not the worst we've seen by far, absolutely. But 10 degrees is still outside our parameters. So I would say for most of you guys out there, if you steepen about 5 degrees, 3 degrees, and you're still in the correct club shaft position at the top, it's not the end of the world. Don't even worry about it. But once you start to get, double digits and above, then you're really starting to change the direction of the club shaft, and it gets into that large range of motion variable that we talk about. It's going to be more and more difficult to control. Now, contrary in the after swing, once we started to torque the club shaft differently, what we're going to find now is that the club shaft is pretty much falling parallel to where it started at the top of the swing. And again, the main reason why is because of the torque that we're applying, which we're going to talk about later in this video, the how much and when of that torque and the direction of it. But because we were able to torque the club differently, now you're seeing that the club shaft is falling parallel and it's not steepening in transition. Now, because we started at a different top of swing position, because we had a different torque, you're going to find position 5 is going to look a lot better, P5.5 is going to look a lot better, and then ultimately you're going to see P6 look a whole lot better as well. So let's go highlight that really quick. So as we start to get to P5 in the before swing, we're going to find that the club shaft is not overly out of position, but definitely it's slightly on the steep side here, right? So right around 29 degrees. If we take a look at the after swing, now we're going to see that the club shaft is plenty flat, and it actually, let me check, yeah, it's just a hair too flat, right, at 44 degrees, but again, it's okay if we're on the other side, right? That's really the main goal of the lesson. Find the other side and then dial it in practice. Now, as we get down to P5.5, we're going to see that now he's in the before swing, kind of towards the top of the shoulder, right? So really steep in this section. If we take a look at the after swing, if anything now, he's actually starting to get a little too flat and is getting towards the bottom of the forearm, which again, we want to see him a little bit more here would be ideal. And again, if we can just touch up that P5 position a little bit, I think we'd be all good to go from there. Then as we start to approach P6, we're going to see in the before swing, this is when the club shaft starts to flatten, right? So it's starting to kind of lay down in this section as the hands are kind of moving out and around. But even though he's still laying down the shaft, he really hasn't done it enough. So at this P6 position, you're seeing the club head is slightly outside the hands. And then you're going to see at P6.5, a few positions after this, it's quite far close to the ball. And then from here, really what's happening is he's really applying a lot of torque kind of this way to get that club head to not continue to move out towards the ball and miss the ball and actually redirect back towards the ball. But that was, again, one of the inconsistent moves we're trying to get rid of. In the after swing, what we're going to find now is he's actually going to start to move the club head out towards the ball. However, he actually started that steepening move slightly late, so now he's actually a little bit behind the ball. But as we start to get down to kind of P6.5, same idea. He's still a little bit behind for our liking, but again, we want to be on the opposite side, so that's okay. And then from here, the ball will move, or sorry, the club head will move out towards the golf ball in this section right here. So in the after swing, he's quite close to what we want to do, a little bit overdone on the other side, but in general, we made a change, right? Which is the main thing that we wanted to do. Okay, so to wrap up that last section, when it comes to kind of the issues with this player's before swing, so really top of swing, yeah, he was a little bit out of position, but he could have recovered if he had the correct transition move, but we just wanted to make it quite simple for him, so we just got the lead arm slightly lower and the club shaft slightly flatter. Then from there, he would steepen the club shaft in transition, and then from right around P5 into right around P6, he kind of flattened the club shaft, but he wasn't enough. And then from here, he's still trying to flatten the club shaft, but he still got into a position where the club head was too far out towards the ball right here. And then really all the way into the golf ball, he's really trying to torque the club head backwards so that it aligns to the golf ball. And that's pretty much the main issues that he was having with the swing. You know, when you start to torque the club head backwards as you approach the golf ball this late in the swing, you're really kind of slowing down the swing, as well as you're presenting a lot of instability with the club shaft twisting. It can rotate quite easily when you start to apply that type of torque as you apply the golf ball. All right, that's it for you guys on YouTube, but before you guys click off the video, let me give you some quick wrap-up points. So when it comes to steepening of the club shaft, first off, for checkpoints, go up to the top of your swing, draw that line on the club shaft, and watch what happens as the club shaft starts to lower. If you're seeing that club shaft actually go into a more vertical position, go ahead and draw an angle the same way I drew it, and you can see how many degrees you're actually steepening, and that's going to get you a great idea of maybe how much you need to feel in the opposite direction to be able to change that. That's really, really important. Now, if you guys are still struggling with your guys' golf swings, that's completely fine. That's where the Kiwi Coach 6-month program comes into play. We just launched our Kiwi Coach 6-month online program, so a lot more of you guys can take lessons. So go ahead and check out the website and look at that as well. Sign up for the physical location lessons if you guys are close to our locations, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, so now let's get into the fun part of the video, and let's start talking about the how much and wins, the parts that you guys really, really want to focus in on. So when it comes to the how much and win for this particular player, we actually were trying to start the flattening motion right around shoulder height, and then we were trying to reach the full amount right around position 5, right? So it's a pretty classic thing that we talk about with people who steepen the club shaft. Don't try to start flattening the club shaft earlier than kind of the shoulders or P3, because typically what happens, and this player actually still kind of did this, you tend to get the club head way inside in the takeaway, and then actually what ends up happening is you typically just steepen even more in transition. So again, timing is really key. Try to do it right around shoulder height. I think this player could have even done it a little bit later, because look at his takeaway. He still got a little bit inside, so we'd probably want to clean that up next lesson, but he was able to get the timing quite good. And then from there, it's all about the amount, right? So the how much feeling for this particular player was pretty much 100%, right? So if I rotate my forearm as much as I possibly can, that's 100%. We were trying to do that from the right around shoulder height section to about P5 section. And as you can see, he got nowhere close to actually getting to 100%, right? If he was actually at 100%, the club shaft would be this position at that point. But again, it's just the feeling of that. Now then ultimately, once we start to get really good with the transition and we just don't see any steepening at all, then we can start focusing on applying an opposite torque to steepen the club back out towards the golf ball. As well, the overall torque of flattening will probably be reduced and we won't have to feel so crazy at 100%. And he's going to be able to get into a lot better positions after that. Now, just like I promised, I want to go over the secret tip that I was talking about a little bit earlier in this video. And really the secret tip was going to be this ball bound focus. And it's more so of a subconscious ball bound focus. It's not something you're necessarily knowing that you're even focusing on. A lot of people, when you're playing golf, obviously the goal is to hit the golf ball at the target. So it's really easy, especially when you're trying to change your swing at first, to be really focused on the ball. Even if you're trying to focus on what your wrists are doing, what you'll find yourself doing is as you start to approach the timing when you're supposed to start focusing on it, your mind starts to get a little hazy, it starts to get a little blank, and you can't really control what's going on in that section. You feel like it's happening way, way too quick. And that's exactly what this player was talking about when we were trying to do this process. He said that he felt like his transition was too quick, he didn't have enough time to think about the motion, he wanted to slow down the swing, and sometimes I'd actually recommend that for people, but for this player, I knew he could do it as long as he just was able to get rid of that ball bound focus and be able to keep the mind focused on what we're trying to do in that section of the swing. So actually the little trick that we did was there's a mirror actually behind this player, directly behind him. So we were having this player look at the mirror while he was actually making a swing. And then as he was looking at the mirror, it was a lot easier for him to find the correct timing because he's just looking at what he's doing as opposed to focusing on the ball, right? So it got rid of that kind of subconscious focus on the ball, switched the goal to kind of what he was looking like at that point in the golf swing, and he was able to start getting it while looking at the mirror, and then ultimately that allowed him to pick up on the feelings, so when he started to look back at the ball, he was still able to get a lot of what he was doing in front of the mirror down there at the golf ball. So if you guys are struggling with your how much and when and you just can't quite get past that, that might be the case and that might be the scenario that you need to focus on. Most likely your brain is kind of getting a little fuzzy, a little hazy as you start to approach the place where you're trying to do the timing and the how much. So might as well actually take your eye off the golf ball, look at yourself doing it at a mirror, and that should help you break the pattern a few times. And then once you see yourself actually doing it, once you start to really develop the feeling as you're watching yourself do that, then try to look at the golf ball and try to memorize that feeling and the timing and try to recreate that. And I guarantee you're gonna have a whole lot better time of getting the positions that you're trying to get. Alright, so from there, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, this was another video about steepening of the club shaft, but I hope that last little bit was worth it for you guys to watch. I think you guys will really get a lot of value from that last part. Make sure to continue watching these videos. We got many more coming your way. Check out our Kiwi Coach 6-month program. We just launched the online program, right? So check that out, as well as check out the physical locations, and I'll see you guys in the next video.